Join computer audio. That's going here. Participants chat here. Let people in here. This is methods, and we are 4 minutes out. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some water. These people start popping in. Spotlight for me. Yay. All right. I'll be gonna get some water.
Nobody said it's not. No way.
Wait, yes. 1 minute. Boom, boom. Let everybody in. All right. So we need to talk about some terminology. Okay. Let's go through pretty quick, please. Boom. Open up. See if there's any terminology here we've not discussed. That's the third. That's 4, 3, 2. Chapter 1. Outline. Chapter 2. It's assignment. Put that back here. Outline. Chapter 4. Outline. Yeah, we'll get to causation. We're not quite there yet. Okay. Need to talk about ethics because that's going to come up today. Okay. It is now officially 11 o'clock. So we'll start over here. We're actually opening up the book a little bit today. And so,
Who are you to decide what's natural? I'm a doctor. No.
I like that. My favorite is Dr. Brule. That almost sounds like Monty Python. I gotta think about that place then. My favorite as of late is what is the guy? He's John C. Riley. You know who that is? Have you seen Dr. Brule?
No, but I know who John C. Reilly is.
And he tends to be a PhD of some type. I forget what. But in it, he's usually interviewing someone who's actually important, an expert, and he acts like he knows everything.
Oh, okay, yes, I know.
Yeah.
I've seen clips of that on
Yeah.
TikTok and YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
My favorite's I know. I'm a doctor too. Yes, I know this too. I'm a doctor. Yeah. All right, so there's a few things we'll talk about today. First, you'll notice that I've not really been using the textbook much, have I? Okay, so we'll start showing you where that stuff comes in because it'll start coming in directly. You can learn about the stuff reading the textbook. You can learn about it while you do it. We'll do a little bit of both is what we're going to be doing. So last time I start showing you a little bit with those numbers, how those spreadsheets look. And then I realized I actually need to go in there and download them so that way I don't have to spend so much time looking through those different codes to figure out I need S101, DP, whatever the heck, that kind of a thing. Because it's all coded. If you look at it, and we're not ready to get the code books because that's way too good stuff. So I'm going to show you how this stuff works. I'm going to show you a little bit of logic related to it. And I'm going to start with that first assignment so you kind of see how it all fits together. Sometimes I realize I'm somewhere else and it's like you can kind of see where I'm going, maybe. And then I realize, no, sometimes people don't understand. They don't see where I'm going. We'll talk about that. Okay. So we've been talking about the processes for understanding things, right? Let's go with what the book says here, because it's going to talk about reality and things like that. And I can share this with you on here. And whenever I move over to notes, I'll stop sharing. Okay. So why study research methods is going to give you some stuff about, its uses, its purposes, that kind of thing. What it's really about. How we learn and how we know anything. You want to know something. You want to have something real, something of substance, something tangible, maybe, right? You at least want to know that you can say something and not have to question about whether or not that is real. Let's see, where did that go? Is that just a notice that everything's being transcribed? Can't see anything now. What's that do? Okay, yeah, nobody's waiting. I hate having this thing split across so many different screens. I can read that, but that's a little bit of an eye strain to read the small print, like participants and things like that. And so, first thing you start getting into is what is it to be real? What is it to be real? And to some degree, some people still question it. In these areas, it's like some people question it even more. It's like the social side, people question it because of this thing right here. Agreements. We know that some things agree. On the science side, they do the same thing over there. It's quantum physics. Some things agree, some things don't. That's why you have binary, and that's why you have trinary, I think is what they're saying. I don't do that stuff. I know that the methods we use do kind of the same thing though. Experience you directly in any situation, what you learn. Anecdotal evidence to some degree. Heard it called that. Right? Agreement. Things we consider real because they've been told real, and everyone else seems to agree that they're real. Because of that, some people don't know what is and is not real. Ooh, here's a good one. The dangers of civil war. How real are they? Everything and nothing. Right? All depends on what people want to do. Do they agree? That kind of thing. As you're dealing with this, you get enough people to agree. Didn't you watch Star Trek? There's a great episode that it has about psychological warfare. Breaking some. In it, one of they're torturing a guy. In it, there's he's strapped to a chair and there's 3 lights in front of him. And he's being told, how many lights are there? There are 3 lights. And then pain. The pain comes. No, there are 4 lights. Okay, how many lights are there? There's 3 lights. No, we want you to lie. Cause all the pain we get from you until you lie and you agree, then we're right. Right? There are plenty of tests that show that people will completely forego what is real, just to agree with people on social pressure. Social pressure is real. The answer you get from agreeing. That's a different question. Hey, what's up?
My hat.
I was wondering who that was. He's like, that's a heavy hat. That's a nice. Yeah. Heavy as the hat. Heavy as the head that holds the hat kind of thing. You guys need a hat. Or a good hat. I like to see some black caps and nude boys, maybe shorts. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody wears hats anymore. That's one of the few areas we see people start wearing hats again. I like hats. Do you agree? The scientific method, what it does is it tries to bridge these things, right? I know it's hot in here. Someone in here is also cold. Is it hot or cold in here? As I go across that, okay, well, I might be hot, they might be cold. 80% of people in here think it's nice, I'm not touching it. Right? That's how that should work. That's the proper process. That's what it is. It's a way to have something that you can move and become something a bit more objective. Right? So we're using, it says logic and empiricism. I like logic and reasoning because that's what you're going to do. You're going to use the math side or as you put it together, that's the empiricism side. You'll use inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive builds upwards, deductive builds downwards. It's literally math. If I have 2 things that's subtracted out, I'm left with something different, right? If I have something as a whole, and I divide it by 2, I now have 1, now I have 2 different things. And that's going to tell me something different, right? The role of science is it must make sense, must agree with actual observations. Epistemology, finding out. Methodology, process of how. Here it talks about tradition, authority, that kind of stuff. Fill that back in with agreement and experience, right? That's just at a bigger scale across time. You can question anything, though. Errors in human inquiry, inaccurate observations, overgeneralizations, selective observation, illogical reasoning, errors in persons' cognitive abilities. Right? That's what they're getting at. Okay? You might see something inaccurately because we're limited. You might see something and think it applies somewhere else because it's your limited experiences. Or maybe it's not, it's a common experience, it's just going to you. Right? Maybe you're just going to, right here. I'm going to pay attention to a future event to see what happens with the pattern and ignore the ones that don't. Then if I try to apply it somewhere, I'm back to overgeneralization, right? And so it's 2 sides of the coin. You need too specific, you need too general. If you try to get specific and apply it the other way, generalize. And so it's all about the contradictions here. Illogical reasoning, exceptions that prove the rules. How many fingers does someone have? Yeah. 2 thumbs, 4 fingers. Some people have 11, 12, some people have 2, some people have none. Doesn't mean that they're not people. Might mean they don't have hands. Doesn't necessarily mean that though either. So exceptions don't prove any rule. It's just exceptions. The gambler's fallacy. That's that luck thing. That's they don't understand probability. Consistent run of either good or bad luck is presumed to foreshadow the opposite. Scientists avoid this pitfall by using logic consciously and explicitly. One. Flip it as many times as I want. I can figure out every single time I flip it, the odds of it being heads or tails or what. Depends on what you do. Gamblers run into it a lot because it's a learning thing. If you have some degree of randomization, and this is the odds for any one success, it's random when you get your reward. So you end up with that spike in behavior. I didn't get it very much, but if I do it a whole lot, I get it a little bit inconsistently. So I'm trying to figure it out. And so you're caught in that pattern. That's why it's so hard to break. It's the strongest pattern for teaching behaviors, random reinforcement. Ideology and politics. Basically, what you get to see is you can see the aggregate effects of belief systems, how they can cause people to err and be blind to it. That's what you see there. Okay. Faith trumps reason. Sometimes. Scientific approach to study of crime guards against but does not prevent ideology, theology from coloring the research processes. Yeah. Look at religiosity as a concept. Religiosity. Study over there. To err is human. Everyone does it. Here's how you avoid that. You take care. You pay attention. The thing I showed you with the missing kids. Someone wasn't paying attention last time, right? There's someone at the very end of that list that's really recent. You have more attention on that, like that person's going to have something positive come back, increases. But it's all probability. Okay. Purposes: explain, explore, describe, apply. If you're doing it right, you move through those processes. That's the order for it, getting there. We're trying to understand explanations. Really, the explanation comes later. It'd be trying to explore so we figure out what it is, describe it, then we explain. Because when you start explaining the relationship between things, now you know how it actually starts to work. When you know that, you can start to take it and apply it, use it like leverage. Okay. I'll give you some examples of that here. I'm not going to go too fast or too slow through all that. We'll talk about where you can find some of those things, what they look like. For example, apply, evaluation, and problem analysis. That's one way. You start getting into organizational stuff. People are trying to do something. So let's see how effective it is. Okay. How to design a research project. Okay. Starts with an idea. May fit into a theory or produce them. Right? First thing, it's planning. It's a planning process. You need to figure out what it is you want to do, why it is you want to do it, and how it is you're going to get it done. That's right off the bat. As you move into that, what steps do you need to take to get it done? There are some that are kind of abstract that follow no matter what you're trying to do. That's going to be this too. Here it says choice of research methods, that kind of stuff. So the first thing you deal with is the concepts. Concepts are when we use a term, what we mean by it. That's why if I say a chair, I'm going to say chair, that kind of thing. Whenever I say I'm dealing with human trafficking. Give you an example. Okay. We started using that one a little bit, didn't we? What did we start with? Missing. Missing what? Persons. Yeah. What kinds of persons?
Children.
Yeah. What else are they? Right? The other end of the spectrum. What do we have? Yes.
I mean, like predators.
Means perpetrators.
Yeah, we got perps. Is that all it is? Did you find perps? Yes, I don't have to find perpetrators. Oh. Okay. Oklahoma. Oh, it's right here. Ooh, a little disclaimer. Have you guys ever seen this before? Okay, this is something you should know. Publicly available information. This is a sex offender registry. Every state will have one. This information is public. It is also very dangerous information, so be careful how you use it. We'll talk about ethics in a second. Right? That's what this disclaimer is about. Essentially, you read it. It's there's this information here. If it's inaccurate, do something here. But also just have some clauses in here about explains the levels. I've read the caveats. There we go, right here. Boom. Make that bigger. Make it bigger. Sex offender registry information shall not be used to retaliate against the registrants, their families, employers in any way. Verbalists with verbal, I lost my place there. Vandalism, verbal, written threats of harm or legal and will result in arrest and prosecution. Why? This is a protected population. To some degree, it has to be publicized. Very weird contradiction there. How much danger is associated with having this information out in the public sphere? I don't know. Let's click OK and see what it looks like, right? Sounds kind of a little dangerous, yeah? Not really. Just gonna see some stuff that you'd see if you were looking anywhere else or anything. Okay. Basic search, appearance search, offense search, map search. All different kinds of search functions. Let's just do search. Will just give me everything. Basic search. I need to make that number bigger for you. 8,000 right now. Right. Okay. That's a different time frame too. As you start looking across times, you start looking across places, certain patterns appear. Right? You want to pull out some patterns, you want to see some stuff like that, you can do that pretty easily. For this one, if you wanted to, you look at the relationship between these two things. What are you doing? If you keep building in all the different types here, you end up with the overall framework to see an entire data set of everyone who's gone missing and everyone who's associated with such. You got two sides of the same coin, and now you can pull some stuff out that you couldn't otherwise. Just with a few things, I can start to identify patterns. You can start to identify patterns. The first one's kind of an interesting one. It's going to be very interesting. Let's see here. So I showed you that. Let's actually do this. Download. So I'll show you some of the different ways you can use this stuff. Open that up. Okay. Everybody's got an address. Some people have two. Let's see if any others have it. Some do, some don't. Okay. If I wanted to, let's do it like this. Boop. Boop. Sort. Data has headers. Address. Add level. Then physical address. Click it. Okay. So I go all the way up here to the top. Okay. So 2 all the way down to still going. Starting to get a little concerned a little bit. Still going. Still going. Still going. Let me do it this way. This will make it go a little faster. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's almost 2,000 don't have one listed for their address. Still, over 1,900 don't have an address at all. That's 20%. Oh. We also have the missing ones, huh? And these are the ones that have been found at some point, not the ones that are outside in society. You won't find it all. Missing. Missing. As you build the framework to try to understand what it is you want to do, it kind of built itself to some degree, right? On the methodological side, what they will do, when you start running analyses, the first thing they'll start talking about is central tendency. Why do you think that is? Here, let's pull that back up because we'll move back over this because I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's move this over since the clock. Only 20 minutes in. Good, because I need that time. Okay. Here it talks about population and sampling, that kind of stuff, operationalization. So concepts, to some degree, we're dealing with that right here. When we talk about perps and we talk about victims, what kinds are we talking about? Right? Missing, known, potential, known, found. Right? Found, missing. No. Okay. The risk associated with becoming one of either of these things, the risk of happening to be in this kind of a situation is going to be between all of that. That's a different thing. As you start building these things together, what you'll see is the relationship between things associated with each of these domains. You can start pulling out overlapping patterns and you start to put it together. Right? But it starts out with one small one. That initial small one would be your first measure. Concepts, we got those. Your choice of methods. Here they're going to talk about qualitative versus quantitative. Again, quantitative are the numbers. Start getting over here. Qualitative, it's almost like legal work is what it is. You're dealing with legal concepts. You're dealing with not legal, but abstractions. You're dealing with the words that people use, not numbers. You're still dealing with words on the number side. It's just now you can put numbers to it and do different things. Population and sampling. That's where numbers first start to come up. If I want it to be something that represents an actual people, I can do that on the numbers side. That's called central limit theorem. If I repeatedly sample out of a population, let's say it's a population of 100 people. I can sample 20 people 100 times and I'll end up with 100 different data sets that are all a little bit different. It's random. If I look at them overall, it will be reflective. If it's a larger number of people I'm sampling out of it, it'll reflect the population more quickly. If it's a smaller number, I need to sample a lot more times, but it will still build the same way, it stacks the same way for saying that theory. As you deal with certain populations, you deal with, well, all the different ways we break out populations. And as you deal with that, you need to figure out what sampling procedures are best to get the number that kind of reflects what that population really is. So that's when it's always going to be in flux. And that's about as much as I can talk about it right now. Hopefully you're in a situation where you're lucky enough you can have a whole population, right? That would be this list. I have a whole population for that one group. Is that the whole list of everyone who's missing? No, I'm going to build that out the rest of the way, right? What's that going to be like? That's going to be eventually looking at police reports for lost, runaways, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a big list, right? Because as you typify them, you can start to figure out, well, okay, was this a bad situation at home? Is this something else? That kind of thing. Is it a runaway or is it kidnapping? Is it just disappearance? Is it they don't want to be found? That kind of stuff. You can start making determinations like that's just how much data do you need to get there and did you logically get there. As you do that, you can start to put numbers to it, and now people know what does what to what degree. And now you got the skills, the information you need to start changing things. Okay, so population sampling, we start talking about that. Observations, that's your whatever you're collecting. Analysis, you know what that is. Application, we already talked about that. That takes care of that one. Reviewing the literature, we'll talk about that more as we get into writing stuff. Research proposals too, because it follows that same basic process that we've been doing. Start with the problem. You do a literature review so that way you can see what other people have done. That's the whole process of it. What it does is it also gives you the ability to summarize it. You summarize it to show that you've read it. So that way you know you're doing something different, something new, or you're maybe revisiting an old topic or something like that, see if it still works. You'll pick out your specific research questions, your subjects, your measures, your data collection methods, analysis, same kind of thing. Here's where it gets a little bit different. You'll have a schedule and a budget. You'll also have a list of people who are involved and that kind of stuff too, depending on the size of the project. So it's project management more than anything. Once you get it going, the math part of it runs itself if you set it up right. Okay, that's that one. Chapter 2, introduction, behavior, foundations. Logic and rationality are the two pillars. We've talked about that. That'd be like me talking about, I can find all kinds of patterns there that don't have a logical bearing on it. Yeah, another thing. And it, while it might matter, it doesn't. What is the relationship between the number of toilets in one's home and the number of crimes committed in a neighborhood? Well, is there a relationship there? Can I determine the number of crimes in a neighborhood by the number of toilets in someone's home? I can't. Does that relationship make sense? Why not? What are you missing? I'm not missing it. I can make that connection. What are you missing? Doesn't measure that at all. You're measuring this. This person's got four bathrooms in their home. Not gonna be a crime there. Why? It's gonna be a big piece of property that's gonna have its own security. No crime, right? It's a rich neighborhood. It gets policed a little bit better. At least they don't have as many people who aren't paying attention. So it's going to get policed a little bit better if the police aren't even there. That kind of thing. Summertime. There is a relationship between ice cream cones and car burglaries. Doesn't that make sense to you guys? There is one. It's not useful because it doesn't mean anything. What it actually means is that when it's warm outside, people buy more ice cream. Since they're outside, it's warm out, they're more likely to be outside at night and break into stuff. Or during the day. Since freezing has cold or raining, I'm going inside. There's the relationship, the real one. You saw it pop up somewhere else first, maybe. Then you have to figure out why. Process. It's always an investigation. So we're going to have fun. We'll play with this one some as we go throughout this semester. As we continue, it's like I've got some of your individual stuff. I've got, I mean, like you've got your individual stuff, and if you got ideas, some of those I've gotten from you, and I'll be working on that. I'll have that by Wednesday, so we can work on those a little bit too. This is one where I'll show you. It's like, this is pretty straightforward in some ways. The process you do it will be a little bit different than the way I do it. And I want you to pay attention to that because you'll see what it does differently as we go. Okay. Here it talks about theory, data collection, data analysis. Yeah. Theory, not belief, don't care. Regularities. We're trying to identify patterns. It's all about patterns. Okay. Aggregates, not individuals. Yeah, to some degree, depending on how you're doing it. We'll talk a little about this. The first thing you do if you're trying to understand something, shape like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or anything else, even a straight line. First thing you do is you find its center point, its mean, right? If it's a number like money, what is the average amount of money someone makes doing it, right? Unless it's something that's weirdly shaped, then you might have the median or the mode, right? A median is the middle point. That's what they usually report for income. Because you have some people who are multimillionaires and some people with nothing. We're going to go with the value that's in the actual middle rather than where people actually fall, because that's going to be lower enough. It makes us look better. Sounds like you make more money. Sounds really good, doesn't it? It's not the way it's actually working. First thing you do, you want to understand something, you get that center point. Now you've got two halves, right? You know what the middle is. Hey, come in. So you got these two halves. What does that mean? Okay. Well, I like for you to look at things. What were they? You're going to measure something. If you don't know the number pattern to go with it, what do you need to look at? Ooh. It's a neutral negative. Where does it go? Directions. To some degree. Classifications, maybe. The same thing. You kind of use it both ways. Right? For this one, if you're dealing with the bell curve, you've got that middle point, that central tendency. That's here. Right? And then you've got everything on the other side of it. Positive, negative. Okay? This side's positive, this side's negative. The next thing you want to do is you're going to look at each. So this central tendency. That is. Right there. All right, cool. This thing. This is a measure for this thing. It is not a measure for all of the people or all of the records or whatever it is you're actually measuring. You've moved to a different scale. Right? From there, what you'll do is you got this central tendency point. You got two sides to it. You know where the middle is, even though it might not really have a middle. Okay. So we'll take this. We'll start looking at what's the difference between this person and this thing right here. So what's the difference between that first person minus that central tendency? I'm going to do it for this person and this person and this person. So I get through all of them. You know what that is? Just analyze a bunch of deviance. That's quite literally what it is. How much you guys deviate from whatever that normal thing is. If it's normally distributed and it has a center, then you can say, I guess it's normal. So I mean, it's what we're doing. So you end up with a difference here of plus or negative, whatever that number is. Right? So now I've got another set of information. I got how much they deviate. I've got their central tendency. Right? I can take those measures right here for each of these people. Can't draw that very well. I can sum them, right? If I just add up all of those differences together here, I just took, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 7, whatever. And I took your average is 5. This one's going to be -4. This one's going to be -3. But take all of these together and add them up. What do I get? If I look at the differences between all of these cases together and the average, what do I get? 0. Because I'm looking at the difference between people and the averages. Overall, they're going to add right back up together. Remember what you're doing. You have to be cognizant of this as you move through it. You have to be aware of what it actually does. That's the hard thing. The easy thing's the logical, right? So I can't do that. If I just add them together, you get one thing. Okay. I need to get them to add together, but I want to do something different. What do I do? Here it is. What are we dealing with here? What are these things? Yes, they're people. Yes, they're concepts. Yes, they're issues. We also have them in a way that they are what? Numbers. You can use number structures to change it. This one's really easy. Here's what they do. I'm going to take these numbers and each one, whenever I get to that, I'm going to square it. Because I make that number twice as big. Twice as big, multiply by itself. Then, whenever I take its sum total, I don't end up with 0 anymore. I can get something different. Once I have that number, if I take it and I do a square root, it's now in the same unit as this thing over here. So now whenever I say the standard deviation for something is, we'll say it's crimes committed in the last 5 years. It's going to run 1 to 10 for this group. The average was 5, right? The standard deviation for that was 2, because if I look at the sum difference between all of these people from that average and how it spreads out, about 85% of people are going to be less than this group, and about 85% of people are going to be less than that group or higher than this group, right? The highs and the lows. You've got your extreme outliers. These are different types of people. You can split these up into different things too. You can cut it into any way you want to. It's just how you put it together. It's framing. Understanding what those concepts mean and moving it correctly and using those patterns, those structures to identify things. As you typify these things and put them together, you see, hey, we're starting to build a different picture here. You want to do it, okay? Known potential missing victims, okay? From there, other reports of missing people. What other formats that come in? Can we build those together? Can we add that into this? Where are they taking place at? That kind of thing. From there, you can flip over to the other side. You want to look at perps and see if there's a relationship there. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. You can try to start to untether that. You got a full data set over here where these things are taking place. Some information about where perps are. Start to identify, okay, there's overlaps here, there's stability here, there's not. What else are we missing? Well, we're missing all the ones that are still in society unknown kind of thing. We can ignore that because we actually do that already in stats. Can we do some of these measures? So we'll get into that. You start to identify these patterns here, whether you're dealing with one here, one here, one here. Some of those patterns can build up over things. And as they start to generalize, you do start to generalize out to different areas. You start building a theory, or at least identifying some things there that might not have been seen before, which we've done already. Okay, aggregates, not individuals, variable language. They talk about that for a little bit between variable and attributes. So a vary varies. An attribute is something about something, that kind of thing, something, right? I'm white, I'm black, I'm Native American. Okay. The variable is race or demographic. in nature. Doesn't vary within people, right? Age would be something that's a little bit different. You're this age right now, at some other point in time, you're something different. Okay, relationships, avenues for inquiry. Here they talk about ideographic and nomothetic, inductive and deductive reasoning. So basically what they start talking about there is inductive versus deductive. I mentioned inductive. That's Sherlock Holmes. What he does, he actually does both sides of it. What you see like in the books and movie depictions, usually he's got some big idea who did it, what happened, and then he gives you a bunch of supporting details that fit together logically to identify the strength of that proposition, right? You start here and you move this way. Deductive, subtractive in nature. On the mathematical side, when you're playing with these numbers, it's literally subtractive in nature. Inductive. You're adding things together. What will happen is you're building these together, you'll start to identify those relationships, and over time, they'll identify what that proposition is. It'll just be repeated and stable kind of thing. That's one way they make differentiations. Realize this is methods. We try to break things up as much as we can. The other one we're talking about over there, ideographic versus nomothetic. To some degree, it has to do with what you're dealing with here. Are we going to focus on cases and variables kind of thing? I might have those backwards. It's the focus there on which one we're dealing with. If you have a whole lot of cases, it's basically the law of numbers here. If you have a whole lot of cases, you can't use very many variables because the numbers there's too much power in numbers. If you want to boil it down. Same thing with variables. If you have too many variables, you can't have too many cases because there's too much data. Everything becomes statistically significant. Everything's different now. Everything matters because everything's in there. So you have to find that balance. Very hard thing to do. That's what I'm going to say. Cases versus variables. Not really. Yeah. Ideographic, unique, separate, peculiar, distinct. You'll find a lot more case studies, things like that there. Get to nomothetic. There you go. You're dealing with classes of situations, that kind of thing. Inductive, specific to general. Deductive, general to specific. Reason why Sherlock Holmes always said deductive. He presented it this way. The author wrote this word. Technically, what he was doing was inductive. So the book's wrong. That's my statement. I'll agree with that one. Quantitative versus qualitative, where I talked about theory. This isn't a theory class, so I won't go too heavy into this part of it. Basically, what it is there's a whole bunch of established theories within our field. You had prime theory or criminology and graduates. You'll be introduced to those, whether it's a text or whether it's the initial writings for those things. Those are going to be major theoretical threads that span time. There's going to be big ones like social sortization theory, strain theory, labeling theory, all of those types of things. All of those are going to have, they're going to fit, well, into some type of paradigm. They're going to have concepts in there, propositions that if you take those and apply those to any specific thing, you'll end up with your hypotheses, that kind of stuff. And so as you're trying to either fill in gaps or check to see if things still remain the same or what's changed or whatever it is your specific purpose is, as you're using that theory, that's one additional guide to use. Like I said, these things stack. You've seen all the different ways, all the different divisions that you have to overlap across everything that you're touching. Okay. Paradigms, fundamental model, traditional model of science. Traditional begins with theory, then uses deductive reasoning, unless you're theory building. We've already talked about those steps. Inductive, that's going to be your crime or grounded theories, your theory building stuff. Probably the clearest example of this as of late that pops into my mind is the guy by the name of Weisberg in 2014 published an article that was called The Law of Crime Concentration. Basically what he had done is he was looking at the geographic and the different ways that people look at crime. You look at people, You can look at, usually it's like look at people, or you look at the crime incidences themselves. Sometimes you look at the places and that kind of thing. What he was looking at is there's a very similar pattern that you see across time and space kind of thing. And so it's this law of prime concentration. It's this thing. Yeah, it's one equal. Right? 80% places have no, it's actually something like it was how did it go? I think it was 50% was no crime, 5% places create 50% of crime, but all crimes found only like 20% of places. It's crime concentration across space, across time too. He got that by I'm analyzing this crime issue here, this issue over here, and this pattern just keeps popping up. So I start testing that pattern. It built upwards. It started from the ground up. All right. Ideally, if you're doing it, it's a two-way bridge. You'll use both deductive and inductive. Here it talks about policy. I'm not so interested in that since we're going to be getting into some. I almost had time. I did not get as far as I wanted to. Ethics. This is where we're getting into the next part. The first thing I had to look up. There's no real ethical lines there. It's just pure helping. That second thing I brought up. What was that? Can you pull it up again so you can see the name? What is it? Right there. This word. Offenders. Offenders. They're in prison, of course, they're a special population. Why would this be a special population? Why is this one we need to take care of? You're going to deal with it. You don't know? That kind of scares me. Here's one. This is a population who has done something wrong in the eyes of the law. In the eyes of society, how easy would it be for someone to use this information in a very negative way? How many people have an axe to grind or a bone to pick? They might want to stick in one of these people. That kind of thing. So this is very dangerous stuff. The dangers that you have here, when you're playing with this, is very real. What you need to highlight in this one is that inverse kind of nature. You're trying to do something good with people who may have been involved with something evil. Not an easy thing to do. I found a little bit of justice. It is just us after all. Have a great day. Guys have a good class? Cool. I'll catch you guys next time.
Dr. Hirsch.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. This is regarding the assignment that was uploaded on Monday. My computer.
I haven't responded. I've been real slow with email stuff. For the first assignment, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual form that it comes in. It's mainly just get you out there clicking into the data and starting to play around with the Crime Data Explorer and not Crime Data Explorer, the
Missing report.
ATS, and then some of those other websites where you can pull website or data from, where you start teaching how to scrape websites, that kind of stuff. So we'll have some fun with that. So, like I said, it's just as long as you got a submission, it really didn't matter. Like what we do in next class. I'll bring in the cleaner set of data and I'll start showing you how to fit it together. I didn't get to that today. I thought I was going to get through this a little bit faster.
Okay. It's just the assignment uploaded the wrong data. It was incomplete, and I have the completed data. I called your office and I sent you an email saying it uploaded the wrong one. Do you want me to send you the completed one, or is it fine?
Hold on to it, definitely. Go ahead and send it to me. I'm really curious. The main thing I set that assignment up is I want to see the different ways how students try to resolve that assignment, because I didn't give them full directions. And so I had a few people who had asked, and in the meantime, I was able to get to them. And some people I kind of left in the dark. So I just want to see. It's like, I don't want my input here. I want to see what you guys do with it. And so I can show you what I do with it. And that way you can kind of have a few different ways to bounce it around. So okay. I'll let you guys go, and I will answer email. I've been horrible about email the last couple of weeks, but that's going to change. It actually is changing, but it's slow because it is.
I sent you the email, so it's on there now. I appreciate it.
All right. You take care and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.